Hello, this is James Max here live. Well, no, that's a lie. We're not really live. But I'm here alongside the infamous Silver Wolf 20, and we are here to talk about the results of the fallback from WWE SummerSlam and Monday Night Raw.
SummerSlam with its amazing, godly 6 matches, two of
Six,
which
six
two of
matches,
which no
but
one cared about.
it was 6 matches, but I think they did pretty good for what they had.
At least we got a good bathroom break with CeeLo Green, even though I stuck around for it and enjoyed his songs.
I don't think there needs to be a live performance at any sort of pay-per-view. I think that's stupid. I think that's unnecessary. It's one thing if a live band is doing a superstar's theme live. That's one thing.
Yeah,
It's another thing to actually be doing an actual song that has nothing to do with it. Even though that was the pay-per-view song, I still think that was a waste of time and that another match could have been put during that period.
a 10-minute boring match. Okay.
Not necessarily. A 10-minute match can be good if you have two good competitors. They could have put the tag titles on the line. You could have had, look at this, at the pre-show, you had Dolph Ziggler versus Alex Riley. They could have put that match for the U.S. title. Hell, they could have put Cody Rhodes defending the Intercontinental Championship against Ezekiel Jackson, but they didn't do that either.
Yeah, that
They had
surprised the hell out of
options.
me.
They had options. To me, it feels like because of that performance, they started to burn out all of their matches. They probably had. They probably had more matches planned for the pay per view. Probably around. I'm thinking 8 or 9. I'm thinking what they probably had originally planned for the pay per view. Was like from what I heard. I heard it was Ray versus Miz was planned for the pay per view, but because of Rey Mysterio's knee injury, decided to turn it into a 6-man tag team match. Another match that was actually planned was R-Truth versus John Morrison, but because of the performance and because of a couple of other things, they decided to do that match on Raw the week before. And now they decided to just bring everybody in together all at once in a 6-man tag to get that out of the way. That's fine. That's okay. I accept that, but I feel like during the CeeLo Green part, you could have put in the Intercontinental Championship rematch, or they could have put in a U.S. title match, but they didn't. The CeeLo Green thing was unnecessary, wasn't needed. That's just my opinion on it. But as for the rest of the pay per view, let's count
Why
down
don't
what
we
happened.
start with that 6-man tag match?
Yeah, because
Give
that
your
was the
thoughts on it.
first match. That was a match I could not predict. I knew there was going to be more matches. I just couldn't predict exactly what. But this was a first match. It was The Miz, who was not scheduled to be in the pay-per-view, well, according to WWE, but we knew he would probably be there one way or another. The Miz, Alberto Del Rio, and R-Truth taking on Kofi Kingston, Rey Mysterio, and John Morrison. In our last video, I said I thought John Morrison was on the chopping block. I thought he was on his way out. That's what I thought. But it seemed like WWE had a different plan in mind, probably, which I'll get to when we talk about Raw.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in the end of this match, the winners were John Morrison, Rey Mysterio, and Kofi Kingston after Rey Mysterio hit the frog splash on R-Truth for the victory.
The two-move combination that we see every single time we see Rey Mysterio in the ring. The
Well, that's
619
pretty
into
much
the
his
frog
finisher.
splash. I know.
You really can't, change
But
it.
he used to change it up so much. I mean, there was always the 619, but he always used to combine it into several different types of moves, like the
Well,
West Coast Pop and other moves like that. But now he's just doing the same boring frog splash all the time. I
Well,
want to
I
see
think
him
that
bring
has to
back
do with
West
his
Coast
knee
Pop and things like
injuries. I
that.
think that has to do with the fact that his body isn't holding up. He is surprisingly, he's only 36 years old. I thought he would be much older. I thought he'd be in his 40s because he was wrestling in WCW and in ECW long before in the early 90s. But the fact of the matter is, he's been wrestling since he was 14 years old. In Mexico, it's a completely different thing. He's been wrestling since he was 14 years old. So
Yeah.
he's been in the business a very long time. So as a result, he's obtained numerous injuries, especially back in the days of ECW and WCW, where he did the most, like, of anything. He was a high-flying cruiserweight. He went all out, and it came to a point when he came to WWE, he was not the same anymore. He had to change his style. He did try to go the fast pace, but his body fell apart. You got a knee brace here, you got a surgery there, and he's at a point now where his body is completely broken down. There's really nothing left of him. So So it comes to a point where he. I mean, I'll discuss more about this when we talk about Raw, but it comes to a point when he's probably going to be hanging up his boots soon. I just don't know when. But it might be advisable for him to take time off. And I'll get more into Rey Mysterio when we talk about Raw. The match that happened next was Sheamus versus Mark Henry, which in my predictions, I said that I didn't think there was going to be a clear pinfall submission victory, and I was correct, because Mark Henry won that match by countout. And I thought, despite the fact it was a match between two big men, it was another pretty decent match for what it was.
Yep.
I expected it to be just a really slow-paced matchup, and it wasn't that at all. They did it right, and I also thought the ending was very good, where Mark Henry put Sheamus through the barricade and got back into the ring, and Sheamus couldn't get back in. That was a perfect ending, and I think that sets up for a longer feud. Had Mark Henry pinned Sheamus straight up, the feud would probably be over. And I think if Sheamus defeated Henry straight up, it would just be Sheamus defeating Henry yet again in the series of times that he's defeated Henry. So a feud over again. So this was a smart way to do it.
Mm-hmm. But don't underestimate Sheamus. He may be a big guy, but as we've seen in the past few weeks, when he wants to move, he can move.
You should see his stuff from Irish Wrestling. He used to do moves where he dove over the top rope to the outside,
like he's been doing recently.
Yeah,
the shoulder dive from the outside of the ropes inside.
Yeah, but I'm talking about from inside to the outside, like Undertaker style, where he would just fly over.
Yeah.
He doesn't do it now, I guess, because of his character, but I see him doing it more and more, and I guess he's going to be doing it in big match situations now.
Yeah.
We might see it in their next match between Sheamus and Henry, where you see Henry outside and Sheamus that's diving over the top to take down Henry, which would be very interesting, and it would also make the move mean more, as opposed to just a guy doing it for the sake of doing it.
Yeah. It would look like a desperation move now.
Yeah, that a guy who's trying to beat this other guy, and he's now doing things that are uncharacteristic of him. And that's what you do when you're trying to win a match, as we saw with Cena versus Punk, and I'll get back to that again later.
Yeah, save that for later, please.
After this match, they had an interview between Christian and Josh Matthews. Christian said he had an insurance policy, and Randy Orton will not leave as the World Heavyweight Champion. And we'll get to that when we get to that. Next up was the WWE title match, Beth Phoenix versus Kelly Kelly.
The match that pissed you off royally.
That did, because my prediction was that Beth Phoenix was going to walk out the champion. And for some reason, Kelly Kelly defeated Beth Phoenix, even though she has a very poor record against Beth Phoenix. A very poor record, and suddenly she can beat her. I just don't understand booking like that, how you get destroyed by one person so many times, you job out to them, basically squashed by it, then one day you face them, and all of a sudden you can defeat them? Just like that? It makes no sense to me.
Well, for starters, it was a surprise roll-up. It wasn't like Kelly Kelly hit her finisher and then pinned Beth that way. It was a surprise victory, which makes more sense for a desperate champion, seeing that Beth is probably the biggest threat Kelly Kelly will ever face, and to win with a surprise like that is more believable than Kelly beating Beth just straight out. It was a surprise roll-up, not a straight, I hit my finisher and beat you. She countered Beth's finisher into the pin, which is, a little bit better. So.
No, but it was a predictable way to end it in terms of how it could have ended. If Kelly was going to win any which way, there was only two ways she could have done it. One would be by disqualification. The other would be this roll-up. That is, if she didn't turn heel. That'd be the only two ways she would actually win the match. But either that Beth goes too far, gets disqualified, Natalya gets involved, gets Beth disqualified, the match can get thrown out maybe. If everybody gets involved, the match gets thrown out as a no contest or double disqualification, whatever the case may be. But the only conceivable way other than that for Kelly to win would have been that reversal. As soon as I saw Kelly in the air and Beth holding her for that long, I said to myself, it's going to end in the roll-up. Sitting right in the back of my mind, it's going to end in the roll-up. And it did. And in the roll, when I saw the roll, I was thinking to myself, okay, Beth is going to kick out. This can't be that predictable. Beth has to kick out. And she didn't. It was that predictable. And that's what I didn't like about it, because it goes against everything that's been going on in WWE as of late, where things have been unpredictable, which I liked. And now we
Yeah,
have a
but
predictable ending here. And I didn't like that. I felt it could have been much better.
yeah, but you got to keep in mind this is the Divas division. They're not exactly paying too much attention to it. So, I mean, this. I will say that Kelly tried a little bit more than she normally does in her matches, but still, it's going to take a long time for the Divas division to get good again.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Oh, yeah,
it's just the fact you gotta accept.
the problem is WWE just released two of their top divas. Well, not well. They released one, Melina, and the other one, Gail Kim. She wants out. She wanted to quit. She did a whole professional thing, and I'll talk about
We
that in
discussed
another
that in
video.
our last video.
Yeah, and I'll get more in depth with it in another video. But continuing on the pay per view, one thing I forgot to mention was after the 6-man tag backstage, CM Punk and John Laurinaitis had a conversation. Laurinaitis told CM Punk he wanted a public apology for getting hit on Raw. Punk, he apologized in a sarcastic way and mocked Laurinaitis. Laurinaitis then left, obviously, and he wasn't very happy, and he left.
Mm-hmm.
And as Punk turned around, he saw Stephanie McMahon, who made her return to TV after, I think, possibly well over a year.
Mm-hmm.
She said she wished CM Punk luck, and Punk said he was surprised and found it hard to believe. He told Steph that she should run along and wish her husband or her father good luck. Stephanie says that she talked to both of them, and they also wished Punk luck, as did Cena. And Stephanie then said, "What do I know? I'm just my father's coolest daughter, right?" And Punk then said, "Yeah, you are pretty clueless," but he called her idiotic. As Stephanie, and this is the best bit, Stephanie extended her hand for a handshake, and then Punk said, "I would, but I know what a handspin," and he walked out. That was a very attitude era thing for them to do.
Yes.
And obviously the children are not going to get it. They're not going to get it. If anything, they'll probably think that means she got her hands dirty, but they won't understand the entire gist of it, which was a very smart way to do it.
Yep.
And it was brilliant, and I loved it. Now, let's go
We're
back.
both in agreement on that one.
Yeah. Now, let's go back to after the Kelly match. We see Stephanie McMahon walking out of someone's locker room. It was John Cena's locker room. Then another segment happened where R-Truth was backstage talking to Mouth of the South Jimmy Hart.
That was funny.
He talked to him about a...
That was a funny segment too. Jamie.
Yes?
You stopped talking.
I did?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah.
Do you hear me now?
Yes. I'll edit the part of saying your name out, so we'll continue from here.
Alright, I don't know what happened there. Right. I said R-Truth was backstage talking to Jimmy Hart. Hart said Truth needed someone to take him to the top. Jimmy said, talks about managing the Honky Tonk Man. And he talked about how he managed the Honky Tonk Man, the Hart Foundation, and many others, and told Hart, and Hart told Truth that he needs somebody like him because he got to think big. Then, R-Truth was agreeing with him. He's like, yeah, I got to get big, Jimmy. And then he's like, big Jimmy? Then he was like, little Jimmy? And he accused Jimmy Hart of being little Jimmy. Jimmy Hart obviously didn't want none of that. And at the end of the segment, it panned to the left, and somebody was on screen. Not a lot of people would know this. I didn't know it until afterwards. It was L.A. Lakers basketball player Ron Artest and his daughter.
Yep.
And they were talking about how they didn't understand what was going on there either. But I do think R-Truth might be one of the most interesting characters I've seen on WWE television in a long time. And I think it's a funny character. I think it's much better than Santino's character is right now, because to me, he's been doing the same exact comedy bit for so many years. It's boring now. It's stupid, and he needs something different, or they gotta let him go. Because truth is, in the ring, he's not very good. So they gotta make a decision here.
He's better than some people. I mean, he doesn't exactly suck, but he's not. He has not gotten a real chance to shine yet.
At a level where I could see him conceivably holding a championship.
Yeah.
Even though he's a 2-time Intercontinental Champion, I don't think he deserved either reign.
Well, the first time was a pure surprise.
I don't
But
know why they chose him of all people to win the Intercontinental Championship in the first place. They could have chose somebody different. There was a lot
like
of
I,
other people out there who could have won the
like I
Intercontinental
said,
Championship.
it was a surprise.
Hell,
It was meant to be a what the fuck moment, you know?
yeah, I get that, but like I know that this was during the time when Bobby Lashley was feuding with Umaga, and it was
Mm-hmm.
going into the match at WrestleMania 22, I think, or 23, one of the two, maybe 21, I can't remember, but it was a Battle of the Billionaires.
Mm-hmm. That it
Being
was.
accompanied by Donald Trump against Umaga being accompanied by Vince McMahon with Steve Austin, special guest referee. What I thought he should have done, on top of it being hair versus hair, they should have put the Intercontinental title on the line and had Bobby Lashley win that championship because he
Yeah.
needed the title at the time, and he shouldn't have given it to Santino. It should have just been given to Bobby Lashley. He wins the title, Vince's head gets shaved, and he would have had a really good reign as Intercontinental champion. But they didn't do that.
And it would have made the IC title a lot more meaningful on that night.
Yes, it would have. And they did it because they were in Italy and they wanted the Italian. But here's the problem. What WWE fails to conceive is that in Italy, it would have been a big deal. But in, like, America, we didn't get it. The next week, it wasn't like Santino automatically got over the next week. Nobody even knew who he was. He got no reaction when he came out the next week.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until he turned heel that people started to give him more reaction. He became a funny character, and it started to work.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked even after he turned face. But after a while, even now, it's like, why are you doing the same thing over and over again? I get he's trying new things like Cobra and blah, 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 but he needs to do something different. And now I need to get back to SummerSlam. I'm going on another rant.
Yeah, you are.
Alright, next match, Daniel Bryan versus Wade Barrett. This match was another match I had predicted. I said it would have been for the case, but this was not the case.
Get it for the case, not the case.
Yeah, Daniel Bryan, to me, it was a very, very good match between two guys who really know how to get it done in the ring.
Unexpectedly good.
Yeah, in the end, I thought it was a pretty cool thing how the ending happened with Bryan putting Barrett in that guillotine and turning, and as Barrett went down, he turned into a label lock, and Barrett made it to the ropes, and at the very end, as Bryan was on the top rope, Barrett shoved him off, and he fell groin first on the ropes. Barrett took him off with a clothesline, and then hit him with waistline and pin. I thought that was a bit stupid how it just ended like that, like a clean victory. It should have ended a little bit more convoluted. It should have been a little bit more dirty for someone like Barrett, especially if they're pushing Daniel Bryan. This to me mirrors how they pushed CM Punk when he won Money in the Bank the first time. He was never intended to win Money in the Bank back in '07, I think it was. Let me think, was it '07? I can't even remember. I think it was '07. I have to do some quick research on that. I'm doing that quick research right now. I believe it was '07. I could be wrong, though. Let's find out. Nope, it wasn't. It was 2008. I knew it was '08, and Jeff Hardy was supposed to win. But he got suspended for violating wellness policy, and they gave it to CM Punk. And it mirrors what happened with Punk's first win, where they weren't pushing him at all, where he lost the title, where he kept the briefcase, he cashed it on Edge, but he was a paper champion. It's like he couldn't beat anybody, and he was lucky enough to beat Batista, and they didn't even let him lose the title. He got punted by Randy Orton at the pay-per-view, and he didn't even lose the championship barely. He was in a scramble match. He got replaced by Jericho, who won it.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was stupid. They did the same thing in '09 to a degree. And then suddenly it's like he was getting destroyed, and all of a sudden he took on Umaga in a match. Umaga was about to get released for whatever the reason. I think it was a wellness policy thing.
Yeah.
And Punk beats Umaga in a surprise. He lifts him up and hits the GTS, beats him cleanly, makes no sense, cashes in that night. And I thought finally he's getting his push. He does get a push. He defeats Jeff Hardy. He has a beautiful feud with him. And then he faces Undertaker, and he gets destroyed, and then he gets thrown out of the main event seat.
Now he came back by storm.
Well, obviously he did, and which is good. But Daniel Bryan, I fear. I've always thought Wade Barrett should have been Money in the Bank, and I still do. But I do think if you're gonna give Money in the Bank to Daniel Bryan, then you gotta push him. Then you gotta really push him. You can't have him losing big matches like this. When Edge won Money in the Bank, he won big matches against guys like Chris Benoit, Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair. He won big matches. He had a big time feud with Matt Hardy. He won matches with these guys and proved that he was ready for the main event scene. And this is what Bryan needs. I think what should happen now. Well, no, I'll get to this on. I'll talk about this on Raw. I'm gonna write it down so I remember.
Why are you talking about Daniel Bryan on Raw?
No, you'll see what I'm going to be talking about. I will talk about it soon. All right, next up is no holds barred match for the World Heavyweight Championship.
The match that almost made me turn off the pay-per-view altogether.
To me, it was still a brilliant match, one of the best, and I think it might have been. To me, I'm putting this as a tie for best match of the night because it's hard for me to. I would give it because they're two totally different matches. I'll get to the other match in a second. The Punk versus they're two very different matches. This one was a completely hardcore, old school hardcore match, and the other match was a very technical match. But I'll get to that.
Mm-hmm.
But this match was a very good match. It started off with Christian coming out saying that he had his plan how he was going to change everything and win was because of his best friend Edge. Edge made his return to the WWE at SummerSlam, and he came out to the ring and he cut a promo about how that he's now retired and he misses the ring, and he put over Christian as world champion and said he was his best friend. Then he started changing his tune and saying that he did a lot of heinous things in the ring over the years, as you can remember.
Yeah.
Those
he was
were
one of the
brilliant
best
things, and he won the title 11 times because of those things he did. But one thing's for sure is that when he did things, he always did it on his own. He didn't. Sometimes he had help by other people, but he didn't hide behind lawyers. He didn't get any of that stuff. He actually went out there and he would cheat and do whatever he had to do to win, but he would never do this kind of whining stuff.
He always had panache and class, like you said.
Yeah, yes, he did. He said that Christian that Ed said he didn't hide behind lawyers like Christian did. Christian became a disgrace of himself, and he said Christian is better than that. And he said they will be best friends forever, but Christian needs to hear this. And he didn't know that his best friend was going to become a whiny little bitch. And he dropped the mic and he walked to the back. Christian was pissed off.
Loved it.
Then the match began. It was a very hardcore match, full of action. There was not a single kind of rest hold or submission applied. It was just a complete weaponized beatdown. And the very end of the match, I think Christian went through 2 tables in this match.
Two tables, the steps, a bunch of other things. He got buried.
He got DDT'd on the trash. This was a completely this was just pure destruction. He got DDT'd on the trash can, and then he got then Orton went for an RKO. Christian so the kendo stick. He jumped to the second rope to go for a sunset flip. Orton reversed it with an RKO on top of the steel steps. And Orton obviously hit his head on the steps. You can see that he did because he was holding the back of his head.
Yeah.
And he pinned Christian and regained the World Heavyweight Championship. I feel like Christian should have probably won the title and had a feud with someone else like Sheamus, but I get that Sheamus was going to be busy with Henry for quite a while. So I'm not sure what's going to be happening to Christian next, but it seems to me like the feud with Randy Orton is done. I don't see how much further they can bring it. And like I said in my prediction, I don't think Christian can win without help. And he didn't have help, and thus he did not win the match. And I thought that someone was going to come out and help him. I think it was supposed to be Edge. Edge didn't do it. That was that. If they do another match, it'll be this week on SmackDown, and Orton will probably win it, and they'll be done. I don't see the feud continuing, but if it does, then Christian would need to get help to win the match. And that's how I see it. and this could be the case of an enforcer coming in, like Mason Ryan or Brodus Clay or something like, or some other guy they could be bringing in from FCW. But but he would need an enforcer if he's gonna win back the World Heavyweight Championship at this point.
As much as I like Christian, no more. No more Christian versus Orton. I'm sorry. I know they've all been good matches, but it's been done to death now. How are you supposed to make us believe that this feud can continue after Christian got destroyed the way he did in that no holds barred match? I mean, as soon as Christian spat in Orton's face, we knew the end. We knew it was over. Because that was the same thing that happened last time. The match ended soon after Christian spat in Orton's face last month, and now when he did it again, I knew Orton's winning. There's no way in hell.
Christian winning the world title in a disqualification makes him seem like he didn't deserve the title win.
Yeah.
Like look at this. When you look back at him versus Del Rio, Edge was involved with him winning the title.
But it was still an amazing match, even without Edge.
Yeah, but it makes me think, would Christian have won the title without Edge? But that's how they book him. They book him as a guy who wants to be champion, but doesn't have the skill to, even though he does. That's the way WWE is. Now, next up, you got backstage thing going on with Triple H, Stephanie McMahon talking backstage in the hallway, and then Triple H walks off for the main event. And now we have the match, the main event, CM Punk versus John Cena for the undisputed WWE Championship, a unification match. And Triple H is a special guest referee. The match happens, the crowd, of course, as I said last time, was very pro-Punk and very anti-Cena. Even though Cena's fans were in attendance, and they were there, but it was predominantly, I would have to say, 85 to 90% of the crowd was for Punk, and the other 10 to 15% was for John Cena, which is a complete comparison to like 98% for Punk and like 2% for John Cena at Money in the Bank.
Yeah. The kids saw Money in the Bank, and they were like, "We can't allow them to boo Cena like that. We gotta come into ours and cheer for our champion. Let's go, Dynasty! Yeah, I'm Punk. Let's go, Dynasty! Yeah, I'm Punk."
I heard that, and I was like, wow, really?
That made me laugh my ass off.
And from what I understood, is that after that match, Money in the Bank, a lot of children went crying.
Of course, because their hero lost.
They cried themselves to sleep. I wonder if it happened again at SummerSlam.
Of course it did. Because their hero got screwed over. How can you not cry to sleep over that?
I don't get how it's screwed over. But now, let me tell you about this match. What I liked about this match is that it was very different from their Money in the Bank match. The Money in the Bank match was more about, to me anyway, it was a very emotional match. You have both men who weren't doing exactly perfect moves. They weren't perfect. But the fact is, the motion behind it showed how desperately each man wanted to win. John Cena wanted to beat Punk to defend the title, to keep it WWE, while Punk wanted to win it. Not only to win it to prove something to himself, but to win it to institute that change he wanted to institute. He knew he had to do it. Mm-hmm. And Punk won the title at Money in the Bank, and what I thought was one of the best matches I've seen, and I think it's match of the year. Despite people might be saying that
Undertaker versus Triple H
match of the year, I disagree. I believe that was the best match of WrestleMania, yes, but I disagree with it being match of the year. I have to go with CM Punk versus John Cena at Money in the Bank. Now, as for the SummerSlam match, it's not match of the year, but it was a very solid match. It was almost perfect, but it wasn't like SummerSlam. There wasn't that much motion in it. To me, it seemed like two guys were trying to do one-upsmanship, trying to one-up one another. It was they traded back and forth. They traded submission, they traded blows, and it was a very technical match. And it was very good for a technical match. And I saw John Cena doing things I didn't expect him to do, especially in a technical setting, because in the last match, it was more about the big moves, the big attacks. You saw them pulling out moves they never did before in Money in the Bank. But here, you saw them doing stuff that they knew how to do, and they did it well. And you saw, like, one of my favorite parts was when Punk hit a reverse STO on Cena and then locked in the Koji clutch. Cena then countered that Koji clutch into an STF. Punk countered the STF into an anaconda vice, and then Cena countered the anaconda vice into a crossface. And I thought that was a brilliant way for them to do that. It was a very technical match, and at one point in the match, Punk flew out of the ring and took down John Cena with a suicide dive. Both men were down on the outside, and Triple H was counting. He got to 9, and then he stopped. He got the ring, and he threw both men in the ring. He was like, nope, it's not ending by count out. And that was a very smart idea.
Yeah, I love that.
And this is why he wanted to become referee. And the referee experience is about to come into play. Because at the end of the match, at one point in the match, Punk decides to do a diving elbow, the Macho Man elbow, and we got Randy Savage chants. And one thing I didn't like during the Randy Savage chants, which shows these young WWE fans who really don't know their history. Like, I wasn't there during those days. I didn't watch wrestling back in the days, but I can respect what Randy Savage has done.
Oh, yeah.
These kids, they don't. They only respect John Cena and John Cena. And this is what I don't like about these fans, is that they don't respect the people who came before. And the thing is, there were people chanting Randy Savage. They weren't chanting CM Punk. They weren't chanting that. They were chanting Randy Savage, and these kids in the crowd started chanting, trying to chant Cena over it. And I was like, what the hell? You can't do that. That's disrespectful for a guy who's done so much for this industry like Randy Savage has. I didn't like that. But that's the thing with these young fans.
But you can't be too surprised, though, given their age and how little of WWE they've watched. I mean, yeah, it's disrespectful, but theoretically, how long have they been watching it? Maybe 4 or 5 years compared to God knows how many?
5 minutes. When you compare it to everybody else, 5 minutes watching. And it's just John Cena. The problem is that WWE is back to substitute corner, which I'll talk about right after I finish with this main event. John Cena, in the end of the match, Cena did kick out of a
GTS.
He kicked out. Punk kicked out of the Attitude Adjustment. Cena kicked out of the GTS. A second GTS was hit, and he pinned Cena, but Cena's foot was on the rope. Triple H didn't see it when he counted, but the match was still given to CM Punk because Triple H didn't see it. After the match, Punk celebrated. He was now the undisputed WWE champion, and he finally proved. Wait, now don't say anything else. Let me get to it. Punk finally did it. He finally did what he said he was going to do. He unified the titles, and he proved that he deserved to be a main eventer. Triple H had to extend his hand to Punk. Punk didn't want to shake it. Triple H raised Punk hand in victory, and Triple H left the ring, and Punk celebrated with the title. Then, as Punk was on the ropes, he was celebrating with the title some more. He got off, and behind him there was a very tall man with brown hair. I didn't recognize him at first. I was like, what the hell is that? Big close up at this man. Then you see close up his face. It's Kevin Nash.
Yep.
Who returned to the WWE after his appearance at the Royal Rumble. And he then picked up Nash and laid him out with a jackknife powerbomb. Triple H looks around. It's like, what the hell is going on? He's coming out to the ring. Nash leaves. He's like, what the hell are you doing? And Nash is already gone. Then Alberto Del Rio comes out and decides it's time to cash in Money in the Bank. He comes out, and the referee rings the bell. Punk has basically nothing left. He's trying to get up. Del Rio hits an enziguri to CM Punk, pins him 1, 2, 3, and we have a new undisputed WWE champion, Alberto Del Rio. And the crowd was very upset with that ending.
Of course.
And this is how it ended. And I'll be honest with you, I don't mind that so much because CM Punk still got the win over John Cena. Because if he didn't, it would have hurt him a lot. It would have really hurt him. He needed to win, and he did, and that helped him tremendously. Even though he lost this way because he got destroyed by Kevin Nash. I mean, what else can you do?
Yeah.
So I got that. I understood that. That's not a bury.
But I mean, it was like we said before. No matter what, he had to pin John Cena, or this feud was pointless.
Yeah,
like we said,
he needed to win. He needed to beat Cena, even though it was on the ropes. Because that's WWE just didn't want Cena to get 2 back-to-back losses without something involved to show like Cena could have actually won the match.
Yeah.
They're saying, well, the match could have continued, could have gone either way. We don't know. But the fact of the matter is, he still won. Triple H being the referee with a little experience as a referee didn't notice it like a normal referee would have most of the time. So So I still think that was a great way to end the pay-per-view. And they had to get the title on Alberto Del Rio because of the Mexican tour that's coming up in, I think, October. They had to put the title on him at some point. And I feel right now, Punk doesn't need the title because he proved something that he deserved to be champion. He proved he deserved not only that, something bigger, that he deserved to be in the main event. He deserved to be featured in WWE. That's what this match was more about.
Yep.
Proving that. His win against John Cena proved that. Despite Alberto Del Rio winning the title, Punk still proved that he was championship material. And that is what he needed.
Yep.
Above all else, even though he lost out to Del Rio, Punk will get a shot in the future, and you can definitely say Punk has a legitimate chance of winning. Whereas in the past, when I saw Cena versus Punk, or Punk versus somebody else for a title, I was saying to myself, I don't think Punk will win. Now I can say I think Punk has a good chance of winning.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it's all about. You have to make him legitimate. You have to make him a threat. You have to make him somebody who has an opportunity to actually win it. You can't just bring him in. And like when R-Truth took on John Cena, the feud was so good, I thought R-Truth had a chance of walking out the champion. And that's what it needs to be.
That's where you and I differed. I didn't think R-Truth had a chance in hell because it was just so sudden.
But I thought their feud, I thought the fact that R-Truth went crazy and he said he wanted to hurt John Cena and all that, I thought R-Truth had a chance.
Oh, that I will agree with you on. The feud was incredible, but R-Truth still had no chance in hell when push came to shove. Because it's John Cena, it's the superhero.
Good. The match itself was not very good. It was the main event, and this is what I was going to talk about. Nobody backing themselves into a corner. They're at a point now where if John Cena is not the main event, you see a bunch of kids leaving the arena. That's what happened at a pay-per-view a couple of months back. John Cena was not the main event. He was before the main event. As soon as John Cena's match was over, you see a bunch of people getting up, like adults getting up with their children, leaving the arena. And that was, and it made it seem like they were bored with the other match, even though the other match wasn't boring. Now it comes to a point that John Cena needs to be the main event no matter what. And that is stupid, and I don't like it. But that's the way it is now. Because in order to keep those kids to watching till the end, he has to be on the show at some point or another.
I would love to see WWE troll those people by having Cena be the first match of the night, just to get their reaction.
They've done it, but he was a match of the night, but he still appeared in the main event. He had
No. I mean the first match on the show, not the main event.
No,
like
the
opener. Yeah, the pay-per-view opener featuring John Cena, just to troll the hell out of those kids.
Well, here if he did, he would still have to appear at the end of the show. And if he did leave right afterwards, I wonder if parents want to leave after spending all that money on tickets immediately after. But that's what happened with one of the pay-per-views. As soon as John Cena's match was over, they left, and I thought that was stupid. But WWE backed themselves to a corner by making that strong fan base for John Cena who only want to watch John Cena, nothing else. And I hate that so much.
Yep.
And now we're going to be jumping over to Monday Night Raw and talking about that. And,
okay, but before we do that, I'm just going to stop recording and restart it because I want to separate these two things.
Alright, so we're going to have a different video for Monday Night Raw?
No, it's going to be the same video. I just want to separate it.
Oh, okay.
So I could edit one part without screwing over the other. So hang on.
Oh, okay.